Welcome to another episode of Talking Baseball, the show designed to talk about baseball. Every baseball fan loves going to Fenway Park, especially in the last 10 years when we've had the 3 championships and the new ownership under John Henry has so enhanced the park's seating and general ambience. Over the last 10 years, the area outside the park has been improved and the games are really fan-friendly. I'm Pete Lincoln. I'm joined tonight by my wife, Debbie. Over the past 35 years, the two of us have gone literally to hundreds of games at Fenway.
And we've developed a fun plan for each trip. And tonight, we'd like to share some of our experiences and our suggestions with you, and we hope you'll find them helpful and entertaining.
In 1997, we took a trip down to Texas Arlington Stadium to see the Sox play an away game. And after one of the night games, we ran into Jerry Rennie and Sean McDonough in the lounge. They were astounded that people from Boston would make the trip all the way to Texas to see the Red Sox. We were sort of the harbingers of Red Sox Nation, and Jerry had no way of knowing that just a few years he would be the president of the Red Sox Nation. And now it is a route traveled by hundreds of fans to all the parks every single year.
And now that there is a Red Sox Nation, here's our first tip. You can become an official member of Red Sox Nation. Last year it was $15. I'm not sure whether the price will go up, but you can get a membership card. And what that will entitle you to is 2 special things. One is you get to go to the park, into the park, half an hour before everyone else.
The major league rules about entering the park is you cannot go into any park before an hour and a half before game time. That's across the board. But with this ticket,
you can get in a half an hour early and be escorted to the Green Monster, where you can watch batting practice and snap photos of your favorite players out in the outfield, like Clay Buchholz.
Now, generally, buying tickets is the biggest problem with going to see the Red Sox. You can go to Tampa Bay and buy a ticket off the street in the front row of the park pretty much for any game. But especially in the last 10 years when the Sox sell out, purchasing tickets is a difficulty. So here's several tips how, unless you have very deep pockets, you might consider when you go about buying tickets. The 2015 schedule is already out, so it's easy to look at and see what games you might want to attend. The easiest months to get tickets for are April, May, and September. Reason for that being the kids are still in school during those months, and people visiting Fenway, and there are considerable now, also have to deal with the children. So there are more tickets available during those first 2 months and the last month. Now, to buy tickets through the park is almost impossible. All the parks now use Ticketmaster. You can't go to the park and buy tickets at all any longer. You have to use Ticketmaster, and to do that, you have to wait in line on a computer to when the tickets become available. They will usually announce in the redsox.com when these tickets go on sale. And they'll say 9 o'clock on Saturday, tickets for the first 2 months will go on sale. Try to get through. All the phones in the greater Boston area are suddenly trying to get tickets. You can't do it. So here's our tip.
Oh, by the way, those are season tickets if you have the money to buy them, which nobody does. Those were bleacher tickets from 1986 that you are seeing right now.
One time we did buy season tickets, split them up with someone and sat in the bleachers. StubHub is the way we buy our tickets. You can buy a ticket for any game through StubHub, and you're probably going to pay more than face value, but you can call where you would like to sit. Now, how they do it is perhaps somewhat not crooked, but a lot of people will buy 4 season tickets and give 2 to StubHub and sell them and pay for their own seats. But we found that you can get pretty much any seat at any point in the park if you choose to do it that way. And you simply call StubHub. You can print the tickets out at home. The 3 places we would recommend to sit. If you like to sit in the bleachers, get them early and sit in section 34, 35, or 36, the front 10 rows. They head onto the park, onto the batter. You have a good view of it. It's not that far away. You might catch some foul balls. And we found that if you like sitting in the bleachers, it's far better than row 28 of section 41, where all you can see is the Dunkin' Donuts kids. The second place is the non-alcohol section, section 32 and 33. For some reason, they don't sell well, not just because it's non-alcohol, but it's close to the Green Monster. You have a pretty good view of the park. The tickets are somewhat cheaper, and you have a great view of when the ball goes into the Green Monster. Seats are off the wall, one of the best views you can have of the park of that. Our choice is to sit in the pavilion, the top of the park. The seats up there are much cheaper than they are in the box seats and even the lower grandstand seats, and you have a terrific view unobstructed by poles, vendors, or children running all over the place. It's about 30 seconds to get to your own bathroom, to buy food and drink, and right back in your seats, and you can get up there with an elevator for the older folks. And those seats, for some reason or other, seem always to be available. In sections, the odd-numbered seats are on the left side of the park, and the right numbers on the even side. Or is it the other way around?
Other way around.
It's the other way around. Sections 1, 3, and 5, or 2, 4, and 6 are terrific views of the park, and it's for the price, it's the best place to sit.
If you're going to a day game, I definitely recommend 2, 4, and 6. Otherwise, you're going to be staring directly into the sun.
People should remember that. The sun is setting in the west, so you're looking west. Some of those seats can be pretty difficult. I know the bleacher seats in the daytime are bad, but late at night, in the first 2 or 3 innings, you don't see anything. So you need to take that into account when you're purchasing your seats. These are all just tips, but we found that sitting up in those top pavilion, not the pavilion box, where you pay to have little girls bring you food for about $40 more a ticket. But the tickets up there are very reasonable. And last year, at the end of the season, when the Sox are doing so badly, we got seats up there for half price. Total bargain.
I should mention before we move on that I forgot to say, when you get your Red Sox Nation card, it entitles you to bring a guest.
Oh, that's right. So if you have, we each get one, so we can take a couple down with us, and all 4 of us can go sit up and sit in the Green Monster. About Green Monster seats, I probably shouldn't say this, they're a ripoff. It's very difficult to see the front underneath where the ball is hitting. You can't see probably 20 or 30 yards below there. You don't have the greatest advantage, and the prices of those tickets is exorbitant. There's only 280 of them, and Ben Affleck usually has most of them.
So get your Red Sox Nation ticket, and you can see the view from the Green Monster without paying the prices.
And you can dodge home run balls and batting practice to your heart's content. I was going to kill a couple of years ago there. Now, to get to the park, if you're an inveterate ballpark goer, you probably have your own route cooked out. But there are a lot of people who only go maybe once every 2, 3 years, and are somewhat intimidated by trying to drive into Boston and find a place to park at the ball game.
So we have a solution for you traffic phobes to get into Boston. You can do a straight shot on Route 2 into Alewife, and you can park there for $7 and take the subway. And you can go to mbta.com, which I would highly recommend, because that gives you any alerts to traffic, any trains that won't be running, but it's basically very easy. You get on Alewife, which is the end of the line, so you can't go the wrong way. Take the train into Park Street on the red line, and then change to the green line and get off on Kenmore. You need to do the B, C, or D trains, not the E. The E does not go to Kenmore. When you get off at Kenmore, you come upstairs through the hotel. You'll see the famous sit-go sign and just follow the crowd. It's very easy getting in that way.
It's easy as long as you go ahead of time.
True.
Sometimes by the time the game is 20 minutes away, you will be packed in like a little sardine on the T. But if you don't like to drive in the city, taking the T is a great way to travel. My wife lived in Boston for a while and knows the T in every direction, so we rarely do anything but take the T all over the place. $7 to park, and then it's $2 for a ticket both ways, so it's $15 total for the transportation and place to stay. Now, we have found a trick to driving in, which we probably shouldn't share, but we found out that if you drive again by Parkway and take Storrow Drive and get off at the Kenmore exit, and you take a right onto Comm Ave and then take another right on Bay State Road behind the Miles Standish, there are 6 or 7 consecutive blocks that are all parking meters. If you get there about 4:45, there are people pulling out of those. And 3 times out of 4, we've been able to find an empty spot and just use a parking meter for 1 hour. For 4 quarters, we could park.
I think it's 5 now.
Maybe 5, okay. And if you can't, if you don't luck out, you can swing right over at that time and get into the parking lot right at Kenmore. I want to say 3 out of 4 times that we've been able to park for $1. And it's certainly better than the $45 or $50 you're going to pay at any of the parking lots around Boston now. So between taking the T or taking the Bay State Road, there's an opportunity to park for less than extraordinary amounts of money. Now, when you first get there, here we are at the park, there are things to do around the park that perhaps not everyone is aware of. There are statues outside the park behind the bleachers. And one of them has been there quite a while. It's the statue of Ted Williams tipping his hat to a young boy. Ted Williams, of course, was one of the founders of the Jimmy Fund, and that statue has been there quite a while. A few years ago, another one is put up of what's called 4 Friends, and it was 4 folks that got along very, very well in the 50s. They played for the Sox. They were great stars: Bobby Doerr, Johnny Pesky, Dom DiMaggio, and Ted Williams. And then just this past year, a new one has gone up of Carl Yastrzemski. So those 3 statues, you'll see people posed with them, in front of them. It's a great place to take pictures. A lot of the parks we've seen around the country have famous people and statues. These are the first ones put up in Fenway. And then you might walk around to Yawkey Way, and all the championship banners are hanging from the wall as pictured here.
Actually, these are the players, the retired players on this side, coming on the same side as the statues. When you round the corner, you'll see the championship banners.
And this year we all ran to take the 2013 championship banner as fast as we could to be pictured in front of that. So there's some photo ops outside before you even go into the park that perhaps people who just head straight into the gates might possibly miss.
Once you get inside, you'll be able to see an outside studio where they frequently do the NESN interviews. You'll see, for example, with Jim Rice and Dennis Eckersley, you'll also see, as was previously shown, there's a man on stilts throwing balls to the kids. There's a brass band outside. It's a real happening place.
Yawkey Way used to just be a road, and you walked in on Yawkey Way. They've turned that into a concourse, very similar to Utah Street in Baltimore. And there's all sorts of food courts, entertainment going on, just a place to hang out and socialize. And that's open at an hour and a half before the ball game, so many people just stay out there and enjoy the show. But especially it's fun to go down to this nested table. You can take photographs of the fellas up there talking, and they broadcast it so you can hear it live. And there's always a few people in the back jumping up and down, showing on TV. But it's something else to do before the game. And there's also the Red Sox greatest store is right there, so it's a great chance to go in and shop. And there's things we'll talk about that in a minute.
And if you get your Red Sox Nation card, you get 10% off in the store. Another reason to get your baseball card.
Eating at the ballpark goes way back in history to buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. And that song was written in 1908. And peanuts and Cracker Jacks are still available at the ballpark. Now, eating at the ballpark. There's all sorts of ways you can handle this. If you have a cast iron stomach, you can eat some of the sausage grinders filled with peppers and onions that are sold at the stands outside. Or you can buy a Fenway Frank, which practically everyone wants to try to do, Frank and a beer.
Well, if you're looking for a little finer fare, you can now go and buy all kinds of things at Fenway, including lobster rolls, deli sandwiches, and instead of the watered-down park beer, you can now get a mixed drink at several of the bars that they have right in your section. There's a huge bar over on third base now. This is upstairs in the section that we were talking about. We got to know this bartender. He's amazing. He will make you anything. And they're quite reasonable. The beer, however, is not.
Oh, here's a fact that boggles my mind. The price of 4 beers at Fenway is the same as a case of beer at Hannaford's. And people that sit there and guzzle beer after beer are spending a lot of money. All places like this, including the movies, make most of their money on concessions. And so the concessions are tremendously highly priced. But that 4 to 24 comparison is somewhat daunting, I think.
So if you don't want to eat in the park, we have a couple of recommendations for before you get there. For places that are a little more quiet than the Boston Beer Works and Pizzeria Uno, where you wait in line for 20 minutes and can't hear yourself think. We recommend Cornwall's on Commonwealth Avenue. It's a little British pubby kind of a place, and it's quite reasonable, and it's just a short walk across the street. Or
the place I like to eat it is Louis Tiant's, El Tiante's.
oh no, that's in the park.
It's a little stand. Well, it's in the park, but
I was going to talk about Jerry
that's a good place.
Remy's.
Well, Jerry Remy's too. But I should have mentioned they have a Cuban sandwich there at Louis Tiant's, and he also often is there at his stand, so you get a chance to talk to him. I first got his autograph inside a baseball hat about 25 years ago, and I wore that hat everywhere to a point where Deb said, "Can I at least wash it once in a while?" Sadly, it blew off in the Chesapeake Bay when we were taking a trip up to Fort McHenry. We were visiting Baltimore. So I managed to get Louis Tiant II. I left Louis Tiant II in the movies, and I don't know which theater it was, but I'm still wearing Louis III. A few years ago, I saw Louis as I was walking into the park, and I walked over to him and I said, "Louis, remember when you signed this hat for me 20 years ago?" And he says, "Funny, I don't remember that." He's a character. The other place, though, we would recommend is upstairs at Jerry Remy's place. Jerry Remy's is quite an expensive place to eat, and it's an elaborate place with huge televisions all over the place. But on the second floor, you eat outside. It's very comfortable and a cute place to hang out and watch the general crowd down below. So either Remy's or this Cornwall's place is a place that is not jam-packed with folks. And the Cornwall's, I think, is open at 5 o'clock, reasonable pub fare, and we found it to be a real pleasant place to eat without trying to jam into the Casket Flag, into the Boston Beer Works, or some of those folks. Now, the park tour is something we would recommend.
You can go on to redsox.com, and right now they are daily from 10 to 5, and during the season we're going to give you a little tip about that, but that wouldn't be right now. They range in price from $12 for children, $15 for seniors, $17, so they're very reasonable, and they will take you all around the park. Off-season, you get to go down and see the locker rooms and so forth. During the season, they won't let you do that if the team is at home, but if you take the last tour at 5 o'clock, you're out on the field for batting practice.
Yeah,
so there's a good hint for that.
You sit right down on the field so you can take photographs or yell at the players right up front. You can't get autographs signed, but it's close. If you're kind of fan that likes to be mingle with the players a little bit, you can do that. It's a good opportunity, and we've tried to do that often. The last tour during the day, which you can get on.
Speaking of mingling with the fans, one other thing that I want to tell you on redsox.com, you can go to the schedule, and if you click on an individual date, it will tell you about any special events or autographs or anything like that that are going on. One thing that we love to do is check for Autograph Alley. It's in the back of the store, the main store, and they have ex-Red Sox players there who will sign your autograph for nothing. They will hand you a picture of them, and you can have them signed. You can also send away and have pictures sent to you with the game score or whatever background you would like.
This is all new from the new management to try to make the place more fan-friendly. Now, Autograph Alley has someone every single day. You can find out usually a couple days ahead of time who's going to be there. Frequently, the player was a fringe player or perhaps a coach, but we have had a chance to meet Bill Lee there a couple of times, and Louis Tiant and Frank Malzone, and they're always very gracious to sign things and pose for pictures. Now, in addition, the last couple of years, they've added what they call a fan photo day, and once a month, they'll have your picture taken with a current ball player. Again, it's probably not one of the stars, but someone from the current roster. This year, we were taken with Jackie Bradley Jr. and with Daniel Nava, and get a chance to talk to him and shake his hand. They take a picture, and again, they send a picture. And the creme de la creme is the one day of the year when they have fans on the field photo day. It's usually fairly early in the season. I think it was in April even this year, maybe.
It was in April.
They let everyone in that's there at a certain time. They surround the field, and one by one, the players are led around to talk to people and sign pictures. And I guess you can't sign pictures, but you can be photographed with them. We shook hands with almost the entire roster, except for the starting lineup. No, the starting pitcher. And
Ortiz.
Big Papi and Pedroia. They were saving them.
And as you've already seen, there was a picture with Pete taken with Farrell, the manager, and that was on fan photo on the field day. In addition, there are people running around because they make money on how many pictures they take. There are people running around, professional photographers that will take your picture anywhere in the park with any group of people. And then you can go online, and if you like the picture, you can buy it. Mm-hmm. Now, this picture now is what we're going to tell you about doing things if you have people with you who are not particularly interested in baseball or are young children.
This, I think, will be the biggest tip for folks. There's usually a guy, Deb's accepted, who drags his wife or family members along so he can go to the games, and they are usually bored stiff. We took our daughter when we were trying to introduce the kids to baseball to Yankee Stadium, and because she didn't want to be there, she rooted for the Yankees hard throughout the entire game. She's learned differently since, but it's the sort of thing that can be a little aggravating. So here's 3 things we've done. The first one, we learned when we were sitting in the bleachers right in front of 6 MIT professors that had season tickets and loved to sit in the bleachers. At the time, the Red Sox had a very good pitcher named Bruce Hurst, and Bruce was the ace of the staff, but he had the uncanny knack of giving up at least 1 home run every single game. So they played a game called the Bruce Bowl, and they would bet on which pitch of the game was going to be a home run. And they would put $5 in a hat, and they count. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and whoever got it, sooner or later someone would get it, and it kept their attention, so half the stands joined in with them after a while, kept track of pitch by pitch, each little kid. How many is that now? How many is that now? So that's one thing you can do.
The other thing we always do is pick who's going to hit the first home run for the Red Sox, and whoever wins gets a beverage of his or her choice from the other participants. And this year, we added no homers as an option, and that worked very well.
If you're with 2 people there, sometimes we'll each take 2 choices, but you win with the first home run. And so you're keeping close attention throughout the game to see if when your player comes up, he's going to hit a home run, and you try to pick someone most likely. My sister-in-law was in love with J.D. Drew, so she always picked him, and I don't believe she ever wanted a beverage of her choice.
She didn't.
But it's just a way to get the kids involved.
The other one we learned when we were in Texas, when we met Jerry Remy and Sean McDonough, and the folks in front of us were doing something very curious. They had a baseball hat, and they were throwing $1 in at the beginning of each half inning, and then passing it to the next person. And we kept wondering, what were they doing? And finally someone won, and we had no idea what happened, but this is what it was.
The umpire at the end of each half inning rolls a ball out to the mound. Some of the time it will stay on the dirt, but most of the time it won't. If you're holding a hat in the inning it stays on the dirt, you win the contents of the hat. Now that's something everybody can play, and when I took my grandson, who was pictured earlier, that was the highlight of the evening for him because he won once when the ball stopped there. And check it out sometime. Most people pay no attention to such a thing, and it usually does stop out of the 18 times, maybe 3, 4. So it's something that can happen, so it's kind of a good way to keep people who aren't really into baseball particularly, and you don't want to just keep feeding them every half inning, something to watch and learn. The other thing I would recommend with young kids, and this worked with my son Jason, teach them how to score. Because it's very simple. Teach them what the 9 numbers stand for, and so they see that there's actually some mathematical sense to it. We took him to several games early on. He was much more interested in the fact that the signs would change every half inning. And, Pete, the sign's changing, the sign's changing. I taught him how to score. Should I tell the story?
Sure.
So he got very good at scoring, and he was 8 or 9 years old, and he also, we've been enough so he was very comfortable with the park. So one afternoon, we're at a game, and he says, Dad, I've got to go to the bathroom. So I said, okay, you know where to go. And he didn't come back for quite a while. And this was at a game early in the season when the stands weren't especially packed. And I looked over in section 25, and he's sitting with 2 ladies, apparently ladies of the evening who were just entertaining themselves for the afternoon. I said, Jason, what are you doing? And the lady said, oh, we like your little boy. He said, Dad, I'm teaching them how to score. I said, Jason, they already know how to score. It might be a good idea if you came back and joined me in our seat. But he was so into scoring that he was willing to share his newfound ability.
So we have an attentive audience till the end of the game, and now we're going to give you a tip on how to get home quickly and with the least amount of hassle.
That can be a huge hassle. Getting out of Fenway, out of any ballpark, but especially out of Fenway, especially if the game has been close so no one leaves early, is very difficult to do. Now we have as our philosophy, never leave early. We watch the last out. Thing to do is wherever you're sitting, leave your seat maybe the middle or the end of the 8th inning and walk down to section 33 and sit near the tunnel there, because 33 is the closest exit to get back onto Com Ave. And so as soon as that, we'll stand up and huddle right by win or lose, and as soon as the game ends, run right out of that tunnel. We can get either to the subway or to our car before the crowd gets there, especially the subway, because the subway can jam up. Once I dawdled with my brother and my sister-in-law, just talking for a while, got caught in a crush there, and it's quite claustrophobic and quite almost dangerous. But it's a great way to get out. We have been actually able to make it from the ballpark to our bed in 1 hour flat without speeding. By getting out, you get out of your car. I told you we park on Bay State Road, go over the BU Bridge, come back Memorial Drive, and Route 16 up to Route 2 and home. It's a great way to escape the park quickly, and that's unless you're going to dawdle around for an hour and miss it all. But by that time, it gets pretty late. But we found that it works great. So if you can get in with no problem and get out with no problem, that eliminates a lot of the headaches involved with trying to go to Boston baseball.
And then we have one tip for your way home. If you feel like stopping, this has been a tradition in the Lincoln family for some time. If you go to a Chinese restaurant, and it doesn't have to be after a ball game, it can be any time, you get a fortune cookie, and in the fortune cookie you usually get 5 or 6 numbers. Your task is to make the best Red Sox lineup out of those numbers with anybody who's ever worn those numbers. And for years, we played this game, and whoever had the best lineup didn't have to pay. And I never paid for about 10 years until I bought Pete this book.
Well, there should be one caveat with us. Number 9, Ted Williams, is a wild card. You automatically don't pay if you get Ted Williams' number. And Deb has added number 15, Kevin Millar, is her personal wild card because that is her personal favorite ball player. Well, she knew all the numbers, past and present, and I would usually lose because I couldn't remember who wrote word 24, and she's Dewey Evans, silly. So
Manny.
I bought this book. It's called Red Sox by the Numbers, and it contains the number of every single Red Sox who had ever worn each of the numbers. So chapter 1 will be number 1, and it'll list them all. So you can make up your own numbers of each player and have that ready to go. And it also has a lot of interesting facts in it, like number 9 was worn by Bobby Dorr for a year before Ted Williams came on the scene. Number 28 has been worn by more players than any other number. A lot of interesting reading, but as far as not having to pay for Chinese food, it's a terrific tip. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this evening with us, and I'd like to say something about going to baseball generally. Going to a ball game is always kind of a crapshoot. You never know what you're going to see. In the 80s, Danny Meisner was running a variety store down by Dave Rogers' store down here, the Red Kettle. And he got a bright idea, let's have a bus trip to a ball game. So he talked it up and advertised and managed to get 40 people to pay for the tickets and the trip. And we all got down there all excited about going to a Red Sox game. A lot of people had never been before. We sat out in the right field stands, and the Red Sox lost the game 20-2. Freddie Patek, who was 5'5" and one of the shortest players to ever play in the major leagues, hit 3 home runs that day. And coming home, so many people said, I'm never going to another ball game. And then another time, we went recently with our friends in the rain, and you can commiserate with that one.
We were told that we had the opportunity to have the best seats of our lives. And we were pretty excited. We invited some friends to go with us, and there was an ominous forecast, so we brought some umbrellas. And as we always say, the rich people get rained on. The really good seats are the ones that are not under the overhang. We were not under the overhang, and not only were they not great seats, but it poured. So we put up our umbrellas, and the usher came over and told us we were not allowed to have umbrellas to get under the overhang. So we huddled miserably for some time. They ended up calling the game.
After 8 innings, a tie. And so they finished the game the next day. So after sitting in the rain, we never even got to see the conclusion of the game, and the people the next day got to see the finish of our game plus their own game. So there can be some real bummers when you go to Fenway.
But we want to tell you about 2 that are really special to us. One, the first one, I have to give a little preface to this. I was being a bad baseball wife. It was April 29th, 1986. I had just gotten home from work. It was cold. It was rainy. That was the year we had the season tickets in the bleachers. I said to Pete, do we really have to go tonight?
And I said yes.
Thank goodness.
So we finally did, in a drizzly night, cold April night. And we were sitting in the bleachers in one of our favorite seats, which was right directly beside the TV cameras. So we could sort of look at the monitors and see what was going on and talk to the guys. And we knew the ushers pretty well. So we're sitting there this cold night, and the Red Sox are playing the Mariners. This is April 29th, 1986. All the real fans out there are already jumping around in their seats.
And we really did go. We have the ticket stubs to prove it.
There were 13,000 people there. This was the year in '86 when suddenly the Bill Buckner year, but this when Red Sox baseball caught on. Now, I had read in the paper coming down in an article that Seattle had just made a cross-country flight, and the day before they had had 16 batters strike out in a game. Clemens was young and he was hot, and I said, well, it might be a lot of strikeouts tonight. Well, after 3 innings, he had 8 strikeouts. In the 4th inning, he had 3 more. In the 5th, he had a couple more. And so excitement started to build. He's getting a lot of strikeouts. By the 7th inning, he had struck out 16. And since I am such a sick baseball fanatic, I said the Red Sox record is 17 by Billy Monboquette. That's the Red Sox record. And when he struck out the 17th, I started jumping around. Terrific. And there didn't seem to be much general notice other than cheering that he did. When he struck out number 18 in the 8th inning, it flashed on the board, the Rocket has just set a new Red Sox record. And I said, what's the major league record? I don't think anybody's ever gotten 20. I think Nolan Ryan had 19. And I think Koufax only had 18. I know Bob Feller only had 18. And then he struck out the first guy in the 9th inning, and it said, Roger has just tied a major league record. And the place, the 13,000 of us, were going absolutely berserk. Phil Bradley came up. He'd already struck out 3 times, and he was called out on strikes, and a new major league record was set. It's the warmest I've ever felt in a ballpark. 125,000 major league games have been played by that point, and that had never happened before. It was totally unique. And to see something just out of the blue in a miserable, cold April night make going to baseball games, I'm choking up thinking about it.
And then our other one, again, bad baseball wife. This is flash forward to October 18th, 2004. Red Sox fans know what I'm talking about. We were down 3-0 to the Yankees in the playoffs. I said to Pete, I don't think I can stand to watch the Yankees celebrate at Fenway Park. Do you really think we should go? Derek Lowe was pitching. Oh, my word. I don't think I could stand it. He said, no, we got to go. So
the game went on, as everyone knows. They were down 4-3 and managed to tie it up miraculously in the ninth inning. But what people forget is that game went on 3 more innings, another hour and 15 minutes, and there were unbelievable number of nail-biting things. A fellow named Curtis Leskanic pitched for the Red Sox the 10th and 11th innings.
Oh, let me tell you about Curtis Leskanic. His claim to fame was that he sang backup on Bronson Arroyo's rock record. He was not a very good pitcher.
And he never pitched again in the majors, but he pitched these 2 innings, and it was in trouble every time. Every pitch was a nail-biter, and every time he got out of it, we started embracing everyone in the area. By the time we had the game ended, we had this fraternity of people madly in love with the situation. And it's going on 1 o'clock, 1:15, and finally, of course, Big Papi hits the home run to conclude the game. And we drove home that night.
Wait, no one left.
Oh, no one left, that's right.
No
they
one
sat
left
there
the
and
park.
cheered. It's like, this is a miracle that just occurred. We just watched the miracle, and no one left. It's 1:15 in the morning. People are sitting there astounded, partly stunned, and then just cheering. We beat the Yankees in a game, and Mario Rivera didn't beat us. We drove home, coming through Lunenburg about 2:20, playing Tessie by the Dropkick Murphys as loud as we can with the windows cranked out, cheering, coming down Mass Ave. And I think we weren't going to be stopped because the cops were probably cheering too. So those are just 2 examples. You never know what you're going to see there. And so hopefully this evening's episode has provided some incentive and some tips and encourage you so that when you go, you can enhance your own Fenway experience. There's nothing like a Red Sox game. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you anon.